anything. Here we go.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, wow. Welcome everyone. So as today is the International Women's Day, we'll have two incredible women as speakers. So first, I'm going to introduce Melanie Singh to everyone. And Melanie actually had an exclusive interview with us just, I think, 2 weeks ago, and it was just so impactful. And she shared from her heart. She shared how she turned her pain into purpose. So I'm like just so looking forward for Melanie to speak to every one of us tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Melanie.
Thank you so much, Angela. I think tonight's more not necessarily me having a speech, but more creating a opportunity for discussion, correct, Angela? Okay, is
Yeah,
that
so
enough?
it'll be more of a group
Correct. Okay,
discussion.
good. Because I didn't really create sort of a speech, but more something that is important to me. Most of us are on this call because we, in some way, shape, or form, are passionate about women and our role and the empowerment of women. And I'm particularly passionate about it. I grew up in South Africa, apartheid South Africa. And so, my sort of origin story is shaped by some of the limiting factors of my environment, very much where the government dictated how much power we could have. And so a lot of even how I grew up thinking about myself as a woman was shaped by that. And so very racially and ethnically defined. And so I have this very strong bent toward justice and particularly for women and children. And so, one of the things that I was thinking about, I think that we live in this world, and I don't know if it's any more, intense than generations past, but it certainly feels this way to me, that we live in a world with increasing demands on who we are, on our time, on our energy, on our talents, and our mental space. And it doesn't really feel like there's a lot of opportunity for reprieve unless we create those opportunities, right? And I think when we have a month like this, International Women's Month, where we're focusing on women and the progress that women have made, but then also where women need to go to even achieve equality, right? Breaking the biases, as the theme suggests this year. I think that there's a pressure that we can sometimes feel as women to do and to be and to become something, right? Something that's worthy, something that's specific, something that's special. But one of the things I wanted to bring up today in this whole idea of breaking the bias, right, is I was speaking to a young woman, and she said she was with a group of other young women, and they were talking about their dreams and their goals for their future. And, they kind of all had these very passionate, elaborate goals, and they were wonderful and exciting. And, she said to the group that I want a career, but I really want to be a wife and I want to be a mom. Like, I can't wait for that. I can't wait to be a mom. And she was so judged for wanting that. And it really brought up this thing, this concept of how do we truly break the bias that exists out there, which there are many, right? Whether it's economic or, socially or whatever. How do we break that bias when we have difficulty breaking the biases with each other, right? Because I find this in my relationships with women, but with relationships with women in general, that at times we can be the hardest on each other, apart from what's outside and external. And so that's kind of a discussion I wanted to throw out there, because I think we need any group of people that have been marginalized need one another. You need your community, you need your tribe, you need your group of people that are going to inspire you and urge you on toward greater things. But this is a thing for women, us, and I think we've gotten much better at it, but how do we do that? Like, well, that's one of the discussions I wanted to throw out there. What are some of the things that we can do to break the biases with each other?
It's really great that you mentioned that, Melanie, because the presentation, like the slides that you're going to see later on, and through my discussion, I have steps that you
Good.
can do in how to empower, because that's what it's about, right? Us, us older generations, myself, I'm 43 years old. So I've gone through those struggles and seen the biases and had to live through it, right? And my focus is really now on how do we fix it for the new generation? How do we break the cycles that we're seeing? And it's really about making sure that we keep our women, keep up with self-esteem, and making sure that we're educating to the highest accord, and making sure that they know that they're not different from anyone else, that they can achieve just as much as anyone in this world. And it's about encouraging and keeping that encouraging momentum going.
Yeah, and I think what you're sharing, Christel, is that it? I think those are the things to me that are the obvious ones, right? That are out there. But then when you have a situation like this girl I was talking with, who is happy to be that person that we are all trying to break the mold of, right? We're all trying to break that mold of the woman in the kitchen with, barefoot and pregnant, but her dream, and so I think that, to me, I want to, because I'm like you, I'm in my 50s, so I've experienced a lot of things where I've had to personally overcome, but it's this idea of accepting each other, right? And encouraging one another for whatever our personal dream and goal is, and not looking down because that person doesn't have a dream of a PhD or to be in the STEM, because we have to help each other as we go along. Does that make sense?
I think it makes a lot of sense. Women inspiring women.
Correct.
Women and girls, they inspire us by demonstrating that leadership. So it's the choices that they make in their day-to-day lives to contribute to the social, the economic, the cultural, the political spheres. So, Canada's pretty free. As women, women are free to study. They're free to be leaders in whatever field they choose. So, and fight for their beliefs. And that's, I think, what the government of Canada is trying to spread as a theme for International Women's Day, is that women do inspire women, and it's going to take women inspiring.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sean. And Leslie has her hand up. Leslie, would you like to share something?
Okay. I think with what's happened in the last 2 years, the pandemic, right? It has really allowed for a lot of people, to like reset, and do things, that maybe they were afraid to do before. So I feel like the climate right now, I feel like there's more acceptance, to do things that, is not the norm. And so I think, yeah, more women just being honest and expressing. And sometimes when you're gonna go against the grain, let's say, you decide you're going to, I don't know, go overseas and volunteer for 6 months. Sometimes it's just a matter of like having a goal and sharing it with like a close circle. Because if you share it with too many people, and people do mean well, but it can get in the way of you achieving something great and doing it, and just being able then to share that experience, and then that way more people are realizing. But I think this is just a great time right now to do things that are unconventional, and hopefully with people sharing things that they're doing, even if it is you're staying home. Like being a parent is like the greatest job, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully people will be more accepting of that.
And how, like, a lot of times when I think about the women's role or achievements, or a lot of times I think when you are a minority figure, and you are striving for equality, there's this bar that you're striving for, right? Like the bar may be set, if you're striving for equality, maybe the bar was set by your white counterpart. Maybe that was the bar, or there's always something that with women's equality, I feel like there is this thing that we're looking for, and it's measured by statistically by whether you're paid the same thing, your access to certain things. And I wonder if, because there's this bar in whatever capacity that is, I wonder if sometimes that can permeate our own personal self, like worth, but then even how we evaluate other women. Because if we didn't look at that as the ultimate, yes, we've arrived, and it was much deeper than that, perhaps we wouldn't be judging one another, right? That it wouldn't be about the bar that we're trying to achieve. Although I do think we need to strive for these things, because it shouldn't be a bar in the first place, right? I think striving for these things are important and essential, but that's, to me, not what defines us as women. That's just a human right to be equal, to get equal pay, to have the same opportunities. I just think that shouldn't become necessarily or shape how we view one another and how we encourage and inspire one another, right? Anyways, that's just a thought I wanted to throw out there, that because I find that within the discussion on race, that can become the thing. And it's like, no, who said I should be equal? Not because this is the bar. I should be equal because I'm a human being. Right? So I don't know. That's just a thought that I think about when I think about women in any sort of marginalized group that has to be brought to some level of equality. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody else, but I think about that often.
I think, like what Sean started by saying, the women's rights started back in 1876. So for the past over at least 1,000 years. So I'm sure back then they were striving, and
Yes,
they were
International
fighting for
Women's
this
Day.
equality, right. Sean mentioned it before, it was 1876. But with this equality, like I'm just thinking 1,000 years down the road. So when it's a year 3000, and then the women in the future look at us in 2022, and then will they say there's equality? Like, because I'm just thinking equality is such a subjective standard. Like there will there ever be perfect equality? Even 1,000 years in the future. Just like this human nature of being judgmental, it doesn't just exist in the history. It will exist forever, I feel like. It will exist as long as there are different races, there are different genders, as long as human being human. Um, we 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 we're as human nature is this being judgmental, this like looking at others to try to find your own self-worth, self-value by comparing. I feel that's just how people are. That's how our human nature is. So yeah, it's like something that uh, it will be a forever topic. This equality, um, um, as a forever topic, will be ongoing. So that's one of my thinking.
And just to kind of elaborate on that, Angela, like it's not just about the you know, what you were saying. It's also like being like the judgmental portion of it. There's also a certain amount of entitlement that we feel as humans. So let me throw something out at you, right? We see in the job market, there's thousands of people that are saying, oh, there's no work out there, there's no work out there, there's no work out there. But then if you go into, you know, a government site, you see thousands of jobs. Why do you see those thousands of jobs? Is it because the jobs are like just being put up there? Or is it because people are not applying for them because they feel a certain entitlement to not have to apply to something that may be menial or below them? So it's both, it works on both sides of the fence, right? There's the judgmental side of it where you're judged for doing something, but then you also have an entitlement of what you think that you like, what is going to give you that self-worth, right? It's that all about that inner self-esteem. So you're playing on both sides of those fences as well. So it's almost like a tug of war match that you're having, or, you know, that angel and devil on your left and right shoulder telling you what to do. Your judgmental is like your angel saying, oh, it's not you, it's not you. But then your devil is like, well, yeah, well, I'm too good for this. So you got to kind of, you know, how do you find that balance to walk that fine line where you're not stepping over too far into that entitlement and you're not, you know, feeling the judgment, right? So it's walking that fine line as well. It's a difficult time to be, it's difficult being human.
That's actually such an
Yeah,
interesting
that's
point.
right.
I was going to ask you, Christel, when you say entitlement, can you speak specifically to that, you know, entitlement in regards to women? Like, what do you mean when you say that in regards to women?
So, in a sense, okay, I've had examples where I've met individuals in my path where, you know, they've been down on their luck, they haven't been able to find a job, like, you know, looking for something that maybe they're not well suited for, but they feel that they're, I can do this job. But they don't have the skills or the trade or the education to be able to back it up, right? So looking at something, let's say for example, I came out of the financial industry. Okay, I worked 20 years in the financial industry. Am I going to look for a job that is anything below that threshold? So am I going to go and work as a janitor? Am I going to go and work in a donut shop or in a restaurant? Or no, because I've already passed that brink in my life. I'm going to look for something higher, right? So it's that self-entitlement, and it's almost like pride, where you won't take that job. You'll do everything in your power to get around having to take that job and classify yourself as in that category of work. Does that make sense?
Yes. And so you're basically, are you saying that women have to be honest with themselves then, that's, that if they have to be realistic, if, they're skilled for a certain job, that's the type of job they should have, and not be looking for something above where their skill level is just because they're a woman?
Yeah, or even something that's like below their skill level, because let's face it, in this world where finances are tough, gas prices go up, rents are going up, do we look at it as, okay, I need to find a job that is going to stimulate my personal ego or my, status as a woman or even as an individual in the society? Or am I going to get whatever job is going to feed my family? And I feel like sometimes we are so prideful that we forget that aspect of, okay, let me go and do whatever grunt job I need to do right now. And just to get what I need to survive and bring myself to the level where I can get to that job, right?
Gotcha.
Now, for myself, like I said, being in the financial industry for 20 plus years. And when I started in the bank, you didn't have to have MBA this or college that or university, whatever. I learned everything about finance in the field. So when it comes time for someone, let's say like myself, who doesn't have the educational background, but they do have the work experience, you find a real struggle because they haven't had that time to really, get proper accreditation for what they're doing because it's all been in-house training. So when you go to apply for a job at another bank or another in some other kind of like relative field, but a different company, they don't look at you seriously because you don't have that education, even though you have all that history and work experience and things like that. So for me, I chose to, at first when I left the bank, I was one of those people. I went and I did what's considered grunt work. I went and worked in a kitchen for a year until I figured out what I needed to do. But I also knew that my family needed to eat, right? And it brought me, working where I did, brought me into the next step of going to school and getting a higher education, and doing something that is passionate, that I'm very passionate about. And that's being able to support people with their mental health challenges, with addictions, helping, individuals live on a better, healthier path in life.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Christel. I see Amina's hand is up. Amina, would you like to share?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I'm not too sure if I'm on the right. I'm just kind of catching bits and pieces here, but for me, I think like being a woman, it's about like setting, as I'm getting older and stuff, I realize for me, it's about setting a standard for myself. That doesn't mean that I won't go and do grunt work or whatever, it's a standard as more like within, like I have to be in a good place mentally. I have to take care of my priorities, like my children and things like that. No, and so no matter what I have to do those things, to maintain that standard, whatever I have to do to maintain that standard, I'll do it. Because life is hard, like you guys have been saying, life is difficult. And one day you're up, the next minute you're down. You know, you don't know where life is going to take you. So, but once you have a standard that you hold yourself to, for me, I hold myself as a mother is number one. As a woman, you know, I set a standard for myself and I carry myself as such in any situation that I'm in any environment that I'm in. I have the standard that I set for myself. And it's not really, it doesn't, like, I don't really care if anyone else accepts it or not. I'm not going to make friends everywhere I go, but once I stay true to myself and to my priorities, I feel like I'll be okay. You know, I can accomplish anything, that whether it's the lowest of the low or the highest of the high, whether it's a job, an education. I feel like I can meet those goals. I can do it because I've set myself, like in anything that I do, I set my standards. And I remember when I was young, my mom always used to tell me, what is it again? If you're gonna be, it's okay if you're gonna be it's okay to be a street sweeper. But if you're gonna be a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper that you can be, you know? So in anything that you do, you should hold that. As a woman, I think it's important to hold that level of that standard and just do your best. And, you know, because it's difficult.
Well said, Amina. Well said. Thank you. You are such a strong woman. I love you.
Thank you.
I got some thumb up and clapping from the chat. Oh, yeah, thanks, Amina. That's great.
Thanks, Amina.
Thanks, guys.
And I do think that's what you just described is truly what helps us to be comfortable with ourselves, confident with who we are. And that confidence gives us the freedom then to not feel like we have to measure up with the woman beside me. That if I'm doing something different that maybe I wouldn't choose for myself, but that person chooses, like this young lady who wants to be a wife and mom, I get to celebrate that with her, right? If somebody wants to be a PhD and I know in myself, there's no way I could ever, you know, that's just not my goal, then I'm comfortable with that and I'm happy for that person and I celebrate that person without that taking away from who I am. I think that's what you shared is so valuable to me, to this discussion of breaking the bias amongst each other. You know, it's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I think like just supporting each other in anything that you're doing, you know, and stop comparing each other. You know, we have to stand together, you know, we already have biases against us as a whole, you know, so we have to keep supporting each other and growing with each other. You know, if somebody wins $1 million, I'm happy for them. If they get their degree, I'm happy for them. You know, I might be, you know, still in school or working at McDonald's or whatever, but, you know, I'm still happy for you, you know, and just being supportive.
Amazing.
Yeah, I love that. Treasure your value from within. That's very important. Thank you so much. So I'm going to have our second speaker. So thank you so much, Melanie. That was a great leading question and helped us really just dive in to think more about what kind of bias we're facing and just truly treasure our own value as women. I'm going to introduce our second speaker, Christel, to everyone. So if some of us been to Christel's presentation a few weeks back, you all know few weeks back, she wasn't a grandma yet. At that time, I was still introducing her as grandma to be. So, as some of us know, she just had her newborn grandson, and I'm not going to read the lengthy bio about her. And if you want to hear about her bio, and you can check out our YouTube channel. There was her presentation recording available. So I just want to let you know about my experience with Christel and my impression with Christel. Christel is very passionate. She's very passionate about helping others. And from the time I knew her, she would do work things just beyond your expectation to help like her family, help her colleagues. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Christel.
Oh, thank you, Angela. And thank you for such kind words. I really appreciate it. Angela, just for the interest of things running smoothly, if you want to just leave the slides up, and I'll just get you to change the slide as we go, because you already have it up. And you can leave it right here on this slide. This is perfect. The beginning is our beginning slide. So welcome, everyone. Today, like we said, it is March 8th, and it's International Women's Day. Today is a day to recognize and celebrate women, young and old, in their social, economic, cultural, and political achievements in the past and in the present. So to all my fellow women out there, congratulations to you all for all the accomplishments that you've had thus far. You've all made a great impact on this world, big, small, and it deserves to be recognized and celebrated. So let's take a moment to applaud all these ladies in the room tonight. And it's also time to raise the awareness of the progress made towards achieving gender equality and the work that's still left to be done. So first, let's do our applause. Let's congratulate our women. Yay!
Yay!
So my ladies,
little celebration.
Like we said, it's all about you. And our workshop tonight, it'll focus on women and how we can be trailblazers for our younger generation of women coming up behind us. Some of you are probably thinking, oh boy, she's going to open up a can of worms tonight. And I can see how that could be the perception. History shows that women are emotional and dramatic and indecisive, only to name a few. And, Melanie said it too, women belong barefoot in the kitchen. How many women have heard that in the room? And how many have actually said it themselves out of a joke or, in contrast or in fun? And what we don't realize, ladies, is that us even saying that is a microaggression, and we're promoting it. So let's not say that anymore. We don't belong barefoot in the kitchen. We belong wherever our heart and our passion leads us. With that being said, Angela, if you want to switch over the slide, why do we actually celebrate women on this day? Does anybody have any idea why March 8th is so important? If you don't, it's okay, because I will share it with you. But I just wanted to get some perspective to see, because why March 8th? Out of all the days in March that we could have, why March 8th? So Angela, if you want to go on again, next slide, that's fine. Before we actually talk about March 8th, and I know that Sean mentioned something about 1876, but why this date is so significant in March 8th is we have to go back a little further. We have to go back to July the 13th in 1848, okay? Remember that date, 1848. It marks the beginning of the women's movement. So on that day, a young housewife, and her name was Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She was invited to a tea with 4 of her friends. And during that tea, Stanton expressed her discontent with the limitations placed on them under America's new democracy. You see, in that time frame, the American Revolution was fought, and it was fought in the pursuit of freedom from cruel and oppressive government. And here, 70 years later, these 4 women were sitting at a table discussing why they weren't able to vote, why they couldn't show any kind of defiance or objection with their husband, why they couldn't actually have a business without their husband's consent or their hand in. Why weren't there any women in boardrooms? A woman's place was taking care of the family home or in a nurturing type role, such as a nurse, nanny, or a cleaner. And although this was the only group, it wasn't the only group to have such a conversation, they were the first to actually plan and carry out a specific large-scale program. Within 2 days, this small group of women, they had picked a date for their convention, they'd found a suitable location, and they put an ad in the local paper announcing the convention where they could discuss the social, civil, and the religious condition and rights of women. It was the first public meeting of its kind. And since then, we've seen women in history stand up for their rights to equality. Can anyone else give me some examples of changes that have happened for women because of these amazing trailblazers? What kinds of things?
Actually,
Sean has one.
yes. Well, actually, if you guys remember Henrietta Louise Edwards Nemours, she was actually born in 1849. And this is in Montreal. This is for Canada. And she was married to a doctor, Dr. Oliver C. Edwards, and they were married in 1876. So if you remember the famous 5, Henrietta and her friends, there's actually a statue of the famous 5. And so she was a tireless activist, and that she had somebody rent a house in Montreal, and her sister, Amelia, they opened the Young Women's Reading Room. So that's a library, and it was a gathering place and for social events. So this is the same woman who actually founded the Victorian Order of Nurses. So that's a fun Canadian fact for everybody today.
Awesome, Sean. Thank you so much. But the things that have changed since then, women have gotten the right to vote. We've seen, changes to workplace. We've seen, so many strides that have happened throughout history since that fateful day. And lots of women, like you said, Sean, here in Canada with the famous 5, and we've had internationally across the world, thousands
Kamala
of
Harris
all come together and join in arms at different stages, right?
Oh yes.
Angela, if you can switch the slide for me. But we truly actually owe this day to this lady here, and her name is Clara Zetkin. She was a communist activist and an advocate for women's rights who actually suggested the creation of an international day. She put her idea to the International Conference for Working Women in Copenhagen in 1910, and 100 women were there from 17 countries, and it was agreed on unanimously. And the very first International Women's Day was celebrated in Austria, Denmark, Germany, and Switzerland in 1911. The centenarian was celebrated, so if you think about it, 100 years, was celebrated in 2011. So technically this year, we're actually celebrating 111 years of its creation. However, things were only actually made official through the UN in 1975. So for anyone counting, that's actually 47 years of international celebration. Quite a difference, isn't it? Angela, if you can go to the next slide for me. So this year, the UN announced that their 2022 theme for IWD, which is International Women's Day, is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. And their events will recognize how women around the world are responding to climate change. It's a great theme. There are other organizations with many other themes as well. But however, the one that really actually piqued my interest was this one right here. And the one that I kind of want to talk about tonight. And this one was designed to provide.
I think Crystal's internet may be a little bit down. Okay, we just give her a few minutes.
Oh, did I skip out?
You're back. You're back.
Okay,
now you're back.
Sorry about that, guys. So the theme for the on the International Women's Day website, which is it's a website that was designed to provide a platform to forge positive change for women. Their theme that they've chosen is this one right here, and it's hashtag break the bias. And this theme is asking people to imagine a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. Angela, if you could switch the slide for me, darling. So I believe that one way to make this a reality is by empowering our young women. So what does this mean? It means providing efforts and activities aimed at changing young girls and women's mentality from can't do it to can do it. It's about creating an environment where women can have a voice in the economical, political, and cultural issues of today without judgment and shame. So how do we do this? Does anyone have any ideas? I know that we had some great discussion before, but anybody have an idea how we can do this? If not, no big deal. Angela, if we can switch over to the next slide, we'll get into the ideas that we have.
Okay.
So one of the biggest obstacles that women and young girls face in today's society is self-esteem. And without self-esteem, do you think that women can feel empowered? Do you think anyone can feel empowered if they have low self-esteem?
Nope.
That'd be pretty hard.
No.
Yeah. So the two kind of go hand in hand. And I did, as Angela mentioned, I did a workshop a few months ago about self-worth and self-esteem. And in that workshop, we talked about 3 main activities that can help build self-esteem. So one of those was build communication. The voice of young women, it must be heard if they're going to contribute fully to the world. Girls must be taught to express themselves articulately, to build their charisma so that they can claim a more active role in their society. 2, by giving decision-making roles. In most society, women have little to no say on issues affecting them, such as governance, allocation of resources, marriage even, childbirthing, etc., right? Right from the family level, women should be participants in the decision-making process. And the third thing that we can do is provide leadership spaces. All the activities for women's empowerment, providing a path to leadership is the most instrumental. It not only instills confidence, but it also puts women at a level where they can be able to empower other women. In a male-dominated society, affirmative action is the only way to help women to achieve leadership roles. So the big question is how can we, what do we do? How do we do this as friends and family? How can we ensure that our women are supported enough to feel the confidence that they need to be truly fulfilled, right? That's the big question. And Angela, if you could switch the slide for me, you'll see there's 5 things that we can do to ensure that our women are growing up empowered. 1, provide education, ensuring that our girls are educating are educated, given, or they're given the fuel that they need to reach their highest level of success. Number two, appreciate the women in your life, everyone, whether it's your wife, your mother, your daughter, your sister, the neighbors, the neighbors down the street, etc. Let them feel valued and, most importantly, equal to everyone else. The third thing we can do, help them find resources that'll push them to learn and acquire those new skills. Knowledge is power. With the right skills, a young woman can learn to be self-reliant and independent and strong. Angela, the next slide. Number 4 that you can do, invest in small businesses that are owned by women, guys. Women are particularly disadvantaged in this area due to the historical and cultural reasons. Supporting our hardworking women entrepreneurs by way of advancing grants or small loans, or even just shopping in a store that's owned by women, can make a huge impact and a huge difference in their lives. And fifth and most important, I feel, is be a mentor to a young girl. Reach out to a girl in your community or wherever your heart is or where your passion is, and be a source of encouragement and engage them and make them feel value and worthy. It is so important. And my last slide is all about the girl power, ladies. We're women. Hear us roar, and let's help this new generation find their roar in life. And our last slide is just to open up discussion, and we can have a little bit of a talk. And if you have questions, please feel free.
Yeah, a lot of great information. Thank you very much, Christel. And lots of great ideas there, supporting women and their efforts, even to research nonprofit organizations that benefit women. There's lots of, centers out there that benefit women, and we can donate. We can always donate to those, crisis shelters. And you're right, showing support's really what women, that's embracing women, empowering other women as well.
And it's,
I have a comment. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to say that I think it's very important as women to lead by example, but also if you have, a son or, a boy that, in your life, I think it's good to teach them as well and to get them to understand the importance of empowering women, just so that that old concept and way of thinking isn't kind of like repeated through a generation. Like when it comes to my son, there is no like gender specific chores and things like that, because he needs to know how to care for himself and not be reliant on a woman to do something like that. So just little things like that, I think, help to make a difference in newer generations.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. That's wonderful. Amina, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just gonna say too, same thing that Janie said. I think it's super important to teach men, to also educate men on what women go through and the biases. Like it's important for not only as parents to teach our sons, but even in the education system. And the thing I like about International Women's Day is that it's international, because like a lot of countries still oppress women. Women, there's still, it's almost like you're going back in time when you go to certain countries, different parts of the world. Women are still very oppressed and held back and whatnot. So I think it's important, and because the countries are mostly run by men, I think that's where it's super important to educate the men in those higher positions of power, to help encourage and empower the women of their country as well. In some countries, it almost seems impossible, like because of like what you see going on. I heard recently the Taliban just recently let women go back to school, but to do that they have to wear a hijab and cover their head. And it's like, in this day and age, this is happening, and that's almost so contrary to this part of the world. So I think it's really important to educate men, bring the awareness out to the whole world, which is why this day is so great. It's nice to hear that the first one started, I guess, mostly European countries, and things like that. So it's really, so just empowering the men of the world, bringing awareness to the men of the world, and educating the men of the world so that they can also use their position of power to help bring up the women.
Yeah, definitely. You're so right. There's still so many oppressed women in other different part of the world still existing. It's this battle is still not finished. Actually, we have Crystal's grandson in the scene.
Here he is.
Little sleepyhead.
Yeah, he's a bit milk drunk right now. He just had his mama's milk.
Oh, adorable.
Puppies, he said hello.
So we had Zenobo hand up. Zenobo, do you still want to share something?
Hi everyone. I was just gonna add to what Amina said, and I was just gonna say exactly what Amina said, right? Because like what she said, like we have a whole lot of awareness to still like teach people, because like I'm from Africa and we have like stuff like that like still going on. We still have like ladies having not having to say, and it's something that is really bad. And like, but coming to like a place like Canada, it made like it changed like my mindset a whole lot, because you see like ladies do like a whole lot of stuff, and like they actually even do more than guys actually do. So just adding to what Mina said, yeah, that's something that we still have to like work on as ladies. But I think with time we'll actually get there. We'll actually get there with time, but it has to do like it has to do with more like awareness, more like ladies voicing out and like standing their ground, like we can do this, not because we're ladies we can do XYZ stuff, but we can actually do this. So that's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah. Thank you, Zenobo. Yeah, that's great. Thank you
And
for sharing that.
and like Melanie said, it's about encouraging. It's about lifting up the fellow women. Stop looking with envious eyes, and look and see that individual has made a great accomplishment. Don't hold judgment. Don't keep envy. Be proud. Be happy that we're making these strides in this world, and that we are finally making a dent in that direction of equality, right? I think it's
I also
important.
just wanted to mention that there are foundations and groups and such that support empowering women. Like there's this one, it's like Empower Girls, that I just monthly donate to. Like and their mission is to stop the child marriages, like forced marriages in different countries, and to help provide these girls with an education. And the thing is, when we're talking outside of Canada and different parts of the world, it takes people like us that are more fortunate to lend that hand and to help those countries become stronger, because you need to advocate, you need to educate. And so I just wanted to put it out there that there's a lot of different ways in which we can help each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
thanks, Jenny. Melanie, would you like? Yeah, I see your hand is up. You want to share something?
Yeah, no, I was going to add two things. The conversation about it, men being a part of this conversation is such a vital thing. I super appreciate Sean being here. I think it's Sean, right?
Right. Yeah,
on
Sean.
this call and in this conversation, because with any marginalized group, those that have power have to be a part of the change, right? They have to be a part of the conversation to truly see change. And I love that, because I have raised 2 sons and 1 daughter, and I'm so proud of who they have become as men who value and respect women and aren't intimidated by women that are achieving great things beyond them. Like, I love that. We're not, a woman who believes in female empowerment, to me, is not a woman that's bashing men. Like, I think that distorts the conversation. And I don't like that. It's one of my pet peeves. And so I love that we see that, as we journey together as humankind, and as we're striving for this sense of equality, introducing and making sure that men are a part of the conversation, because they hold the seat of power in many of these conversations. And we need them. That's been one of the great forces in equality with race. It's that the people who've had the power have had to enter the conversation in order for things to change. And that's been the way it has been with the right for women to vote. It wasn't until some men with power said, this is wrong, right? And joined the conversation that happened. So I'm super grateful to people like Sean who are here, lending his voice and his, because it is a joint conversation. So.
Very well said, Melanie. Very well said.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, as a man, I definitely hear, some pretty derogatory language. I'm not sure that women really like that kind of language, towards them. It may seem like that somewhat, in the music industry or pop culture. But I mean, I hear some pretty derogatory things, whether, towards women or about women sexually, or other things, as if, they're not as strong maybe. But it's disheartening to hear. I mean, my mother was an abused woman quite severely over years. So I grew up an only child till I was 10. I was in a single parent household where I was raised by my mother. I never had a father. He left when I was like 2 years old. So it hits close to home. And I understand, yeah, there's a lot of stigma and a lot of derogatory comments. Like, once a lot of men get together talking about what they would do to a woman, or like describing words, and it's really very common. And I think even having certain respect and boundaries in social aspects, like with other men, I think those are going to be all those finer areas where it's going to maybe there'll be a turning point. If we can maintain the respect in discussions, men having discussions with each other, maintain that respect, that will translate.
Yeah, you're right, Sean. I think you were cutting off at the end. Oh,
Yeah,
I think yeah, okay, you're there. Mm-hmm.
that was it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, so great to hear that, how strong your mom was, just raising you, such a fine gentleman. That, great job your mom did.
Yeah, I haven't met your mom, but I'm already impressed.
Thanks for holding in your laughs, everybody.
I'm already impressed with your mom, given the fact that out of that pain, she was able to raise someone with such a great sense of value for men and women. So she's pretty awesome. She's an overcomer.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. See Sofika, Marisa. Hey, Marisa. So great seeing your name. Would you like to share anything? I know from the Philippines culture, I think women is still undervalued. It's the how's that cultural background affect your view of this women's in Women's Day? Did, did does that culture celebrate Women's Day as well?
Not really.
Not
Sorry.
really. No.
Not really. I just learned about Women's Day, International Women's Day, when I get here in Canada.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's good.
that
I'm
the
just
women's right
listening.
movement, is not that big in Philippines.
I think it's changed now. I think it's changed now. But before, I I was away for a long time now, Angela. So I don't really, how do I say? I don't follow, but I think it has changed a lot now in the Philippines.
Okay.
Because I know that there was a rally even yesterday or today. I saw on the news, and they're also, promoting that, about women's rights. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I can. Oh, I'm just thinking about like a recent family picture. I kind of being shared with, because my grandma's birthday was a few weeks ago, so she turned 98. So it was a
Wow.
big family. Yeah, 98. So big family get together. But then the picture, the family picture of like different generations was kind of to me, it gave me a little bit concerned that all the men are at the front, and then the women supposed to be at the front because women are shorter. But then what happened, the women were behind, and they were just peeking from between the men. So all the males in my big family were at the front, and then all the females, all the shorter ladies are behind them. So I just didn't see they're quite. I don't think they're quite happy about that.
Wow, that's
That's
sad.
a little bit of women's right issue there.
Wow, that's crazy. Even in something as
Yeah.
simple as taking a picture. Wow, that's great.
But I
Mhm.
mean, we see that in everyday life, right? Like we still see women hold, even if they hold a full-time job, they hold the responsibility of the home as well, right? And it, like you guys said, it's so important to have men join this conversation to really understand that, yeah, women are strong, but we shouldn't have to do it all. We can do it all, but we shouldn't have to do it all.
That's true.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
That's true. Shared. Have to
Yep.
share.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to
Yeah, I like that stuff.
share a different perspective. So having Indigenous background, it's really amazingly different with the way that you're brought up and you're taught about women. Like, women were viewed as, they had the ability to give life, so they were life givers and also the caretakers of life. And for those reasons, they were very highly respected. And it wasn't the way things are viewed, like men are superior and this and that. None of that was there. Like, as a matter of fact, when a woman has her monthly cycle, she's not supposed to do anything for that time, because they consider it a very spiritual time and a time a woman needs to be with herself. So she's not to cook or to clean or any of those kinds of things. So culture values women and sees the value in them. So I just wanted to share a positive story.
Oh, wow,
Good
that's
to know.
amazing.
That's great. Wow.
That's great to hear that.
Yeah. It makes sense too, and what you said, that you're the women gives birth and raise the children and all that. So they should give them a high regard in terms of that, and not just that. Wow, that's the first time I heard about that, about the women, that when you have your menstrual, you have that time for yourself. Wow, that's good to know.
I was wondering if I could get away with it at work. Guess what? I'm Indigenous.
Yeah.
I have the 7 days off, please. I didn't think it would fly, but just the concept behind it was beautiful. And I don't know, I just like it. I feel like, especially in today's society, we, have children, we have full-time jobs, the house, all these things, like we
Oops.
carry so much on our shoulders. Back to be a stay-at-home, all that stuff, okay, but nowadays it's like we need 2 people to work, to sustain, to survive. But yet, like, it seems like the chores and those ideas of what women have to do still remain on our shoulders, and it's like, okay, hold on a second. Like, we're like super women, and it's just not realistic. So hopefully this changes worldwide.
Yeah. And let me just say, raising 2 boys, that's where a lot of our teaching can happen, right? Where we teach our boys that that's not a gender thing. That's not a, cleaning and all of that, cooking, that's not a gender thing. That's,
No, exactly.
and
That's a human thing.
yeah, we all want to eat. We all want to clean home. And it's so important that they sort of grow up knowing that and believing that and taking part in that process. And it's not only our responsibility to raise our kids, and they're actively involved in that whole process, right? So that's hugely important.
Yeah. And Aliyah just put in the chat, she's raising 2 boys, and she's Aliyah, would you like to share anything? If you are comfortable turning your mic.
Yes, I like to say that my both boys are feminist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Good job.
Yeah, but I'm doing it by myself. Maybe that's why, without father.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's
So I have
incredible.
influence on them.
Wow. So
That's so
you have done
interesting,
a great
because
job.
Sean was raised without a father, and she's talking about her 2 sons she's raising without a father. And my brother also, like, there was only girls. There were 7 of us girls and my brother, and he is the most respectful person when it comes to women. Maybe it's that nurturing, caring aspect that maybe the mother gives, or maybe not seeing how a man would behave. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or, you
Yeah,
know,
it takes.
sorry, go ahead, Angela.
Oh, just thought it takes definitely extra strength when you are a single mother. So
Yeah.
I applaud you, Aliyah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I should applaud all those women who are raising boys as feminist as it could be, as a single mother.
Yeah. You're heroes for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was a single parent, Aliyah, for 4 years before I got married. And so certainly not as long as perhaps you have, but it certainly is a heroic job to raise a child with 2 parents. But when you're doing it by yourself, it's heroic.
Thank you, everyone. It has been a great evening. Just discuss the topic around the Women's Day, and I definitely just oh, learned a lot from everyone. Like what Sean has talked about, what Melanie has talked about, what Christel talked about, Amina talked shared great on self-worth, and yeah, everyone has put a lot of insights forward. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Angela, for hosting
you.
tonight.
Thank you.
Yes,
So
thank you.
see you next Tuesday. Normally we have our Tuesday night workshop, just a small group get together, talk about different subjects around just around mental health and awareness building. So hope to see you next Tuesday. And thank you, everyone.
Sure.
Have a good evening,
Thank you.
everybody. Have a happy,
Good evening.
productive time.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Marisa. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Angela.
Thank you.
Hey, Stephanie. So
Hey, Melanie.
Good to see you, Melanie.
Hey, Marissa. I didn't get to see your face, but so good to hear your voice.
It's good to see you.
That's so awesome.
There.
Old
Yeah.
friends. I love that.
Yeah. See you tomorrow, Melanie.
Take
Oh,
care, guys.
bye.
Bye, guys. Bye,
Bye.
Angela.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Melanie.